We back with another episode. So, when y'all think of Vietnam, first thing comes to mind, I'm sure, is war. 60s, 70s, 50s, way before our time, Vietnam. Y'all already know I got a crazy story. Short story for y'all today. It's a lot of people that been hitting me, asking me, you know what I'm saying, to take it as far as I can take it away from just the regular norm on this platform, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. So today, we're gonna take y'all into the story, Vietnam gangsters, David Thai. David Thai came here 60s and 70s and wreaked havoc in New York City, bouncing around. A lot of conflict between the Asian gangs of that time. This story is crazy. Please watch to the end. It's real crazy. It's a twist at the end, just like any other story. David Thai, Vietnamese gangsters, going to Vietnam with this one. You know what I'm saying? They came over here, wreaked havoc. Take y'all into it. Let's go.
Street gangs in the nation. The Vietnamese Born to Kill gang was no exception. Known as one of the most wild Asian gangs New York City has ever seen, these Vietnamese kids came out of nowhere and interrupted the existing criminal order of Chinatown. Although their reign of terror didn't last long, the Born to Kill gang will be remembered forever for their fearlessness, ruthlessness, and inability to abide by the rules. The mark they left will forever be a crucial moment in New York City's criminal history. To understand the gang completely, we need to go back to the motherland. All the original members of the gang were born in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War lasted from 1955 to 1975, which was a conflict between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, in which the USA joined on behalf of the South. After the fall of Saigon, the nation was in devastation and now run by communists. As a result, many people tried to flee the country. The US government allowed many of these refugees to resettle in the United States. One of these refugees was David Thai. David Thai was born Pt.1 in 1956. He came from the city of Saigon and was descended from ethnic Chinese of Vietnam. Saigon was the capital of organized crime in Vietnam and had a criminal history dating back many decades. David Thai was not only born into a criminal city, but he was also born during the chaos of war, so his criminal career was almost inevitable. When David was 9 years old, the US entered the war on the side of the South. This coincided with the American culture shift of the hippie era, which led to many young people experimenting with drugs, especially the soldiers. The American soldiers happened to be in the perfect place to score drugs. This gave many poor Vietnamese like Thai a business opportunity. As a young teen, he became a middleman between Vietnamese drug traffickers and US soldiers looking for drugs. Thai's little drug business came to an end after the war was over and the communist forces were victorious. David Thai's father was arrested and sent to a re-education camp, but he managed to get David sent to the US as a refugee. Thai ended up in a group home in Indiana as part of a Lutheran church for orphans and juveniles. Thai had it rough here. Not only was he an immigrant and the only Asian in town, he was also Vietnamese, which many Americans were still considering their enemies of war. Only a year passed and Thai knew that he had enough. He decided to flee the group home so he can fully take advantage of American capitalism. He got on a Greyhound and ended up in Manhattan in 1976. He made ends meet by working in restaurants, but he knew he wanted more. He would visit Chinatown from time to time and study how the Chinese made money on counterfeit products, so he began practicing making counterfeit watches in his apartment. In 1978, Thai attended NYU with the hopes of being legitimate, a Vietnamese refugee girl, and the two got married quickly. After a few months, Pham became pregnant, and they both dropped out and moved into Hell's Kitchen. Thai now realized washing dishes wasn't going to cut it, so he needed to make real money to support his wife and child. He began to put his counterfeiting skills into action and started selling counterfeit watches on Canal Street in Chinatown. This business was controlled by the Chinese gangs or tongs, so David was forced to join them in order to keep his autonomy. In the early 80s, David Tai joined the Chinese Flying Dragon street gang, which was headed by the hip Sing Tang. Tai's business was growing fairly well, and the Flying Dragons allowed him to run his own Vietnamese sect of the gang. David Tai began to recruit many young Vietnamese refugee boys under his leadership. Most of these kids were younger than Tai and had no family structure, so they looked at David Tai as a father figure. The Flying Dragons would use the Vietnamese to do some of their risky, dirty work like shootings and robberies, but their Vietnamese origin prevented them from moving up in the gang. By the mid to late 1980s, David Tai had many young Vietnamese under him in Chinatown, and other Vietnamese gangs in the city were loosely connected to him. His immediate crew was called the Canal Boys, and they specialized in extortion and robbery. Tai was dominating the counterfeit watch business and bringing in a lot of money. He had fake watches coming from Hong Kong, and he would replace the face with fake Rolex, Gucci, and Cartier logos. He then would force merchants and shop owners to buy his watches with the threat of death. By 1987, Tai had enough money and manpower to completely separate from the Flying Dragons. In 1988, Tai was bringing in millions of dollars with his watch business. Now Tai and his men were becoming a target for law enforcement. Tai had a store on Canal Street which was getting raided often by police. He grew tired of the police and wanted to retaliate. Tai then ordered one of his teenage henchmen, Eddie Tran, to blow up a police vehicle, and that's exactly what happened. A bomb was thrown into a police cruiser, and 2 officers were injured. This is when the city and law enforcement knew that the Vietnamese kids were nothing like the Chinese gangs, and they had a serious problem to worry about. In 1989, David Tai wanted to solidify his control over all of the Vietnamese gangsters in the city, and decided to have a meeting in the June of 1989. All the Vietnamese gangsters came to a restaurant in Manhattan to discuss the future plans. All of Tai's men were there, such as Hoang Ngo, Lam Trang, Eddie Tran, Lan Tran, Vinh Vu, Tommy Vu, etc. All the men had to sign a contract and agree that they were now under David Tai's leadership, under a new gang named Born to Kill, BTK for short. The name came from a slogan which was popularized by the film Full Metal Jacket, which was set in the Vietnam War. Apparently, BTK member Lan Tran saw the poster for the movie and decided that it would be a good fit.